for a true freshman like him?
Well, going back to last spring, he impressed us all with his effort, his competitiveness, and I think from the Alabama game all the way through, he's been a guy that's done a phenomenal job as a true freshman. It's really, really hard, and we take this for granted when a guy started as many games as he has. You take for granted that he's just one of the starters now, but often forget what a difficult job that is. It's really, really hard for a true freshman to start and play the whole year. And he's done a great job. I think as we look back at this season as a whole, I think we'll all be really pleased with what he's done. He's probably played as well as any true freshman that I've started.
And what kind of role do you think he has in the locker room? Obviously, left tackle is kind of a leadership role, but for such a young guy, has he spoken up? Has he sort of leaned on the veterans?
Well, I don't think left tackle necessarily carries any more leadership with it than left guard or right tackle or any other position on the offensive line other than center. So I don't think that there's anything inherent with that position that calls for that. Now there is more responsibility on him in terms of protecting the quarterback, obviously. But he's a guy that, even though he's a freshman, isn't afraid to say something. He's not afraid to get after guys or encourage guys or do some of those smaller things behind the scenes. Obviously, being a freshman, he doesn't have as much as an older guy does, but in his way, he does show some leadership, and I suspect as he progresses and matures, he'll be one of our better leaders.
When you went back and looked at film from this past weekend, did you see something systemic as far as protection was concerned?
It was a collective. It was a collective effort.
Really?
It was a collective effort. Yeah.
Was it mostly linemen, or were we talking to some?
I'm not going to get into specifics in terms of this guy's fault or that guy's fault.
But units, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not even going to get into that because I don't want to point fingers. But when we have games where we don't give up any sacks and there's great protection, that's a collective effort. That means the receivers are running their routes at the right depth, running at full speed, getting open at the right time. The quarterback's getting rid of the ball. Not only are the offensive linemen blocking, but so are our backs and tight ends. When we have a game where we give up sacks, often that's a collective effort as well. And I'll just leave it at saying that it was a collective effort.
I got you.
But I'll also say that the offensive line certainly takes most of the blame and the credit for it, and we're willing to accept that and say that we didn't do as good a job as we could have done this week and need to do better.
Is it disappointing to go from playing at such a high level down at Miami to coming back at home and then
extremely disappointing. But it's extremely disappointing anytime you don't feel like you played as well as you could have. And I'll give Maryland a lot of credit. They had a great scheme and they did a great job. Their guys came in and played hard and did a good job, so I'll give them credit. But on the other hand, I think we left a lot of plays out there and certainly didn't play nearly as well as we could have. Yeah, that's real disappointing.
They also had a kid that played a career game pretty much in that game too. That Monroe kid. I mean, you couldn't have. I don't know if you could have scouted him.
Who's that?
The kid that had 3 sacks against you guys this past weekend.
What number? I don't know names. I just know numbers.
Yeah,
Andre Monroe, 54 or
maybe
something
like that.
I can't remember. See, it's the opposite with us. You know how it is.
Yeah.
He came in with 14 career tackles in that game.
Yeah. Sometimes they did a nice job with their pressure package, and they did a number of things where they were playing man coverage and some zone blitzes as well, where they were doing a good job and picking some guys. And they did a good job with it. They got a nice blitz package, and they've got a lot of sacks if you look at their team, but they were able to free some people up at times.
How are some of your younger guys coming along, like Austin Smith?
Some of them I don't get to see a whole lot. Guys like Wyatt and Parker and Kyle, those guys that are down on the scout team, I don't see them a whole lot. But I am encouraging those guys to recognize that and Austin as well, that they're not just in a position right now where they're getting through this season. They need to be working towards improving so that they're in a position to battle for a starting job in the spring, and trying to help them realize that every day you go out there, you're a day closer to that. And either you get better or you get worse every day that you go out there. But I think they're making progress, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they all do this spring. The difference with Austin is he's in a position where he's a play away from being in the game. And I just told him last week, hey, you've done a great job learning the scheme. Now you've got to really become a better offensive lineman. And, with him, it's just a lot of the technical details that really, he's done a great job for a guy that's made that transition in the middle of the season. But he's a guy that's getting better and really looking forward to his future.
Appreciate